Well, hello and welcome to Nevada Trails. I am Jeff Cowan, sitting in for Michael Smith, who usually hosts the show. And I am the community liaison with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. I'm here today to find out a little bit more about an emergency threat that is happening at Lake Tahoe and many other lakes around the western United States called aquatic invasive species. Now, aquatic invasive species are in the news a lot lately because of the environmental and the economic damage that they can wreak on our waters. So Lake Tahoe and other areas have initiated a watercraft inspection program to help stop the spread. I'm joined today by Ted Theyar. He is the biologist for the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, and he's also the co-lead for the multi-agency coordination group at the Lake Tahoe Basin for the Aquatic Invasive Species program. Ted, welcome to Nevada Trails.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Sure. So can you tell us just a little bit about yourself quickly and what you do at TRPA?
Oh, sure. Like you mentioned, I am a biologist by trade. I'm actually a University of Nevada, Reno alum. And I've worked in the Reno, Tahoe, Carson Valley area for about 10 years now on various topics. Worked for the TRPA since 2006 and on the invasive species program since 2007. And what I do in that program, and like you mentioned, I am the co-lead along with the Fish and Wildlife Service coordinator. And we coordinate about 40 partners, both public and private, agency and non-agency partners, to address aquatic invasive species issues at the Lake Tahoe Basin.
Okay, right. So that sounds like a really big partnership. What's happening this year with Lake Tahoe watercraft inspections this season? I mean, what do you really want boaters to know about the inspection program this year?
Well, this year is going to be very similar to last year in most respects, but there are some changes that we've made, largely to increase efficiency of the program and to make it easier for boaters to come in and out of Lake Tahoe. The biggest thing that we did is we've moved the inspection process for aquatic invasive species from the ramps to these off-ramp locations. There are 6 off-ramp locations around the Lake Tahoe Basin. And these locations will be the ones to provide services if the boater does not have an intact inspection seal. If they have an intact inspection seal, we encourage them to go straight to their favorite launch ramp, in which case they'll be checked in and checked out of the lake. For those viewers who don't know what an inspection seal is, what I'm referring to is a piece of wire that we seal the boat to the trailer so that we can verify that this boat has last launched in Lake Tahoe, and therefore it does not need any further inspection because it's no longer a threat.
Okay, perfect. And now I know there's for the last couple of years, I know that there's been a fee charged at the ramps for the watercraft inspections. Mm-hmm. Are there any changes to the fees this year?
There's small changes to the fees. The vast majority of boaters will pay the same or slightly less than they paid last year. I believe 93% of the boaters will pay approximately the same.
Okay.
There's been slight changes in the fee structure in terms of the length of vessels and what various vessel lengths are charged. We changed that to try and make it a little bit more equitable. The TRPA governing board, who approves these fees, has directed staff to make this as equitable as possible,
okay,
as fair as possible. Okay. So that's what we're trying to do. And also for this year, it's only a flat fee of $30 if you maintain that Tahoe seal that indicates that you only boat in Tahoe.
Right, because I have the fees here, and I know they're on the websites at TahoeBoatInspections.com, but it says Tahoe only and Tahoe in and out.
Yes.
Is there Tahoe only boats come this year? That means that they already have a seal when they get to the ramp this year.
That is correct. If you have a seal on your boat, you qualify for the Tahoe only sticker. Okay. You may have had a Tahoe in and out sticker last year because when you first came to Tahoe last year, you didn't have a seal. But if you left Tahoe last year and you maintain that seal when you come back, then you qualify for the Tahoe only sticker and that $30 fee.
Okay.
For Tahoe in and out boats, the fee is scaled based on length because larger boats take longer to inspect and decontaminate. That's why it's based on length.
So yeah, I've got the fees here, and it says the Tahoe in and out boats range from $45 for personal watercraft, or what we usually call jet skis, up to about $100 for really big boats. And then there are additional small additional fees once a year if you are a Tahoe in and out boat and you have additional ballast tank systems or live wells that need to be inspected as well.
That is correct. The one other thing I'd point out is that like you said, while it's $45 for a personal watercraft, the smallest boats, the open skiffs less than 17 feet, are only $30. So
Okay.
for our local fishermen who come and go out of the lake, we know they use Walker and other lakes.
Yeah.
We tried to be as fair as possible with them because we know it does not take that much time to inspect one of these open skiffs 17 feet or less.
That does sound like you guys are moving toward, keeping it really equitable and fair. But what is the cost of the program? I mean, where's all the money coming from that really does pay for the inspections?
Well, these inspection fees cover about 29% of the cost this year. Normally, we shoot for about 33%. The remainder being federal dollars through the Southern Nevada Public Land Management Act. This year, it's a 29-71% split. The vast majority being federal, because we've actually taken these steps to increase the efficiency of the program, including purchasing upgraded decontamination units using federal dollars. So not only are we encouraging people to go to these off-ramp locations to get their decontamination so that it's faster to get into the water if you already have a seal, but we've also expended a fair amount of money to improve the efficiency of these decontamination machines to make it so the process is quicker and easier for people who do not already have a seal.
Okay, I get you. Well, that sounds good. Now, what if I don't have a speedboat? I'm just a kayaker. Now, do any of these inspections affect me at all?
Yeah, the baseline message for all boats, whether it's a kayaker or a speedboat or a wakeboarding boat or a fisherman, is to come clean, drained, and dry. If you're a motorized boater, coming clean, drained, and dry will just make the process a lot easier. Not only does it help prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species, and the clean, drain, and dry message is something that people should practice whether they come to Tahoe or not. Any of the lakes in northern Nevada will only benefit by people who practice clean, drain, and dry. That is, remove all water and all foreign material from their boat before they enter any lake. But even if you are a non-motorized user, if you have a kayak, or if you have a paddleboard or a canoe, the inspection program does apply to you. We are not requiring that all paddleboards and kayaks. I don't know why it's so hard for me to say, but we don't require that they have an inspection before entering the lake, but they are subject to an inspection, and there will be roving inspectors going around to the most frequented beaches and launch sites. And if one of those roving inspectors comes up and requests to inspect your kayak, you need to let them inspect it because they're just trying to keep the lake as beautiful and as clear as possible.
I see. Okay, so if I'm on the water, one of these roving inspectors comes up to me this year, asks about my boat and where I've been and whether I've inspected and things like that, then I just need to follow along and do as they say.
Yes,
exactly.
And like I said, they're only trying to make it so that you can continue to paddle in a lake that is as pristine as it is.
Very good, very good. So, what kind of invasive species are you looking for overall? I mean, what is going on to keep watch on Lake Tahoe and other lakes in the area? Like, how do you guys know if aquatic invasive species are in Tahoe? But also, what are you doing to sort of look at other lakes nearby to find out what's going on there?
Okay, that's a very good question. What we do is we separate the world of aquatic invasive species to those that are in Tahoe already, and there are a few. We can talk about those, but also those that are not in there yet. And some of the species that we're looking for are quagga and zebra mussel. They're the ones that are in the majority of the news. But we're also looking for things like New Zealand mud snail and a number of weeds and other fish diseases and things that are transported by boats overland by water into bilges and engines and on holes and etc. And so we are not only trying to prevent them, we're also looking inside Lake Tahoe to make sure that they haven't gotten through somehow. And we monitor in Lake Tahoe. Last year, for example, we looked at 78 different locations and looked for the presence of quagga and zebra mussel in the water column. So we're monitoring to see if they're here. This year we're expanding that to include additional surveys for weeds and for New Zealand mud snail. And these are the same kind of things that are done throughout the region. We work fairly closely with our partners through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Nevada Department of Wildlife, Bureau of Reclamation. They're also doing this kind of monitoring, looking for new species that may be invading other waters in the region. And so we work really closely with them so that if they do find something, we're made aware of it and we can adjust our program accordingly and offer any assistance that we might be able to for.
Well, that's perfect for now. We're going to come back in just a minute to continue talking about aquatic invasive species and how you can keep your boat clean, drain, and dry.
Hi, I'm Fish and Game Warden Patrick Foy. boaters at Lake Tahoe should expect watercraft inspections at all launch sites around the lake. These inspections are designed to prevent the destructive spread of zebra and quagga mussels, as well as other aquatic invasive species. If brought into Lake Tahoe, invasive species will damage boats and the pristine waters and be impossible to remove. Remember to clean, drain, and dry your boat every time before entering a new body of water. Clean boats stop aquatic hitchhikers.
In order to protect our riding opportunities, we've got to tread lightly. That means staying on roads, trails, and areas designated for ATVs. Also, go over, not around trail obstacles to avoid widening trails. And cross rivers slowly, and only at places where the trail crosses the stream. Join the millions of responsible riders who protect our privileges and our natural resources by treading lightly in the outdoors. Visit Tread Lightly at treadlightly.org.
We have been talking a lot about the partnership with other agencies and other regions, but I'm just curious, what happens if you were to find out that another body of water had an infestation, had some type of aquatic invasive species?
Well, that's a good question, Jeff. So what we do when we do find out that there is a water body that has an invasive species, we add it to a list that we keep of infested water bodies in the West. Boats that come from infested water bodies need to be decontaminated so that they don't bring whatever they're carrying into Lake Tahoe, which can cause significant economic and environmental damage. So those individuals would get one of their decons at these off-ramp or on-highway locations.
Okay. So if I needed a decontamination, what is the process like? What are the decontaminations like? I know that you've added efficiency, you've got faster equipment working up at the lake this year, but what does it entail?
Well, what the boater would experience is coming to one of these inspection stations. They'd be asked a series of questions. The boat would be inspected. If a decontamination is necessary, then the decontamination staff, there are trained individuals there to operate this equipment. They would then pump hot water. It's 140 degrees for most systems.
Okay.
Through the hull, through the bilge. They also pump hot water through the engine cooling system. Any other systems. We've also realized that we can actually decrease the temperature and increase the exposure time to be able to decontaminate for some systems in our boat that are more sensitive. That where 140 degree would damage them, we can decrease the temperature, increase the time, and still have effective decontamination because we don't want to damage anybody's boat. And the people that are working at these inspection decontamination facilities, they've been doing it for a number of years now.
Yeah.
They're very professional, and they can certainly get the job done as quickly as possible.
Okay. So 140 degrees for a lower temperature for a longer period of time. You guys are really working with boaters and trying to kind of meet their needs, it sounds like.
Yeah, we really are. We want to do it as quickly and as efficiently as possible. If a boat needs a basic engine or bilge flush, that shouldn't take very long at all. It's just a matter of maybe 10, 20 minutes at the very most. For other boats that are, if we find something on the boat, it can take significantly longer. But we're trying to do it as fast as we can because we know that people come to Lake Tahoe to recreate and to enjoy their boats, and so we definitely want to make sure that they can do so as quickly as possible. So at the same time, we do want to make sure that the lake is safe.
So what are you looking for when a boater comes to one of the roadside inspection stations this year for an inspection? What are you looking for? Well,
the inspectors, they actually look at every part of the boat and the trailer, anything that it gets wet. Anything that would be subject to being submerged in lake water should it have come from an infected water body. So they look all over the trailer, inside the rear bumpers of the trucks or the hauling vehicle because the water can pool there. They look all the whole. What they'll do is they'll ask to come aboard. They'll ask the boat owner to open up compartments, etc. They'll look in any compartments, make sure there's no water involved, no water stored there. They also may lower the outdrive or lower the outboard, check for water inside the engine. Okay. They'll look at any water toys, anchors, lines, anything that may get wet, because anything that can get wet can transfer aquatic invasive species.
That sounds like a pretty daunting task. I mean, really trying to stop aquatic invasive species when it's just anything that gets wet. Are there places that boaters can go to learn about how to just protect waters where there's no inspections going on?
Yes, there's a number of different websites. The 100th Meridian Initiative, it's a 100th Meridian Initiative. They have a lot of good information. It's a national website. Also, we have our TahoeBoatInspections.com. The same kind of procedures about clean, drain, and dry can be applied to any reservoir.
Good. Yeah. And I know that I think kayakers and paddleboarders and canoeists and things like that can go to TahoeBoatInspections.com for that how they can self-inspect. Are you guys going to do that this summer?
Actually, yes. What we're going to be doing this summer is having an online self-inspection registration program where people can come, they can learn how to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species on their kayak or canoe. They can take a test and get a little certificate out of that says that they have passed the test and they know enough to be self-inspecting their own kayaks. That, along with that program, along with the motorized watercraft inspection program, is being implemented by the Tahoe Resource Conservation District, and they're doing a really good job with that.
Yeah. Tahoe RCD's been working on this for years with you guys.
Yes, we've been working on it together since 2007.
In 2007, what was the big thing then?
January 2007 is when they first found quagga mussels in Lake Mead. They'd been there for a while ahead of time before they were found, but that was important because it was the first time that quagga or zebra mussels had been found in the West.
Okay. So quagga and zebra mussels had crossed that 100th meridian.
Exactly.
But there's a lot that we can do to try and keep our water safe, and you've talked about how we're testing our waters and things like that. But I know that there are already invasive species in Lake Tahoe. We hear a lot about Asian clams that are in the lake, Eurasian water milfoil, or some of the weeds that are in the lake, and then curly leaf pondweed in the lake. What's going on to try and address the problems that are arising from those species that are already in the lake?
Well, we're actually doing a lot. And I know that most people think of the Tahoe Aquatic Invasive Species Program as watercraft inspection program because that's where the majority of people interact with us. But we're actually doing a lot to treat the invasive species that are already in the lake. You mentioned, for example, the Eurasian water milfoil, curly pondweed. These are weeds that have, in the case of Eurasian water milfoil, have been in Tahoe for many years. They've caused quite a bit of environmental damage. They also require quite a bit of effort to simply try and remove them to allow the passage of boats in places like the Tahoe Keys. We're working closely with the Keys Property Owners Association and with other private and public partners to address those issues. This year we're hopefully going to get about 15 acres of weeds treated in Emerald Bay and the Tahoe Keys and other locations around the lake because we know that these not only cause environmental damage, but also they do cause economic damage, and so we want to make sure that they're taken care of. So we're doing quite a bit with weeds. The curly pondweed is a more recent invader. We're working on that as well. In terms of the Asian clam problem you brought up, that's a really good example of potential economic impacts. Asian clams have been in the lake since right around 2001 was the first time they were seen at very low densities. But in 2008, their densities started to reach a point where they were causing problems. And you may recall, and viewers may recall, if you were in the Marla Bay area in 2008, that the lake wasn't its normal blue. We weren't looking at Tahoe blue. We were looking at this green mat of algae on the bottom. And that was actually caused by this very high density of Asian clams. And they actually were taking the nutrients out of the water and basically fertilizing the algae. And obviously people come to Tahoe and our recreation is based on this nice, beautiful blue lake. And if we end up having a near shore that's full of algae and not very nice to swim in or boat in, it's going to have recreation impacts. So we're trying very hard to address these. We've been working very closely with the University of Nevada, Reno and UC Davis to test various technologies to treat these clams. We've been using what we call bottom barriers, these plastic mats that we lay out on the bottom that suffocates the clams. This year we're actually looking to test whether or not they work in the winter so that we can expand the time that we can actually treat for these Asian clams. Again, and make it more efficient, more likely that we can control them. We're also doing a project where we're looking in the mouth of Emerald Bay. There is a population in the mouth of Emerald Bay, and obviously Emerald Bay is a big draw for boaters on the lake, and we don't want to see that become polluted. So we're trying to see if we can't go ahead and test a bottom barrier treatment there. There's obviously a lot more boat traffic. We want to make sure that we can do that without causing disruption to boating in Emerald Bay.
Yeah, I know. I was a sport fishing guide on Lake Tahoe for a long time, and that entrance right through Emerald Bay. When you talk about the mouth of Emerald Bay, it's the entrance in Emerald Bay where it comes up shallow, yellow sand on the bottom, with the blue water makes it this beautiful, beautiful emerald green. And you're saying that there are Asian clam actually infested right there at that spot.
There are Asian clam infested right in that spot you described, right in the shallow part at the entrance of Emerald Bay. We're not exactly sure how they got there. Could have been, in terms of bilge water from boats.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, boats do spread these things around. It could also be that just the natural lake currents carried them, because there are lake currents that run from the east shore around Marla Bay across the lake towards Emerald Bay. Because however they got there, they're there.
That's incredible. I mean, that's one of the most heavily visited spots, I think, of all of Lake Tahoe, because if you want to get into Emerald Bay and go see Vikings Home or the island or anything, you've got to go through that spot. So right there, you guys might try and lay rubber mats down on the bottom to kill the clams, as you had over in the east shore.
Yeah, and we're going to start that early this season, so boaters who are early season boaters might actually notice some big black mats off to the side of the channel there this season. Also, and it would look very similar if any boaters were in the Marla Bay area last year. They may have also seen a black 1/2 acre bottom barrier on the bottom where they were actually treating in Marla Bay last year.
Okay.
And if people want to get a good feeling of the potential impacts of these things, Marla Bay is a great place to do it. If you go out on a nice clear morning, nice flat water, you can see this line of white shells running from one end of Marla Bay to the other. And if boaters have seen that, those are the dead clam shells. There's a lot more live ones in the substrate than there are dead ones. But that's a very compelling visual image as to what we do not want to see at Lake Tahoe.
No, it's incredible. I know that there are lakes up in the north and the west, northeast of the United States, where the zebra mussel, which is related to the Quagga mussel, infested years ago. And I've heard that you can't even walk on the beaches anymore. You can't walk on the rocks anymore. That the beaches all just smell of the decomposing, matter from the zebra mussels that are the shells that are just completely washing up on shore, and they're feet thick on the beaches.
Oh yeah, that is true. And these quagga and zebra mussels, they have a life cycle about 3 to 5 years, depending on water temperature, and they'll grow to just fantastic numbers, and then the population will crash, and all these dead organisms start washing up on the beaches and creating foul odors and smell in drinking water. Definitely, a lot of people, especially on the east shore of Lake Tahoe and Nevada, get their drinking water right out of the lake, and that kind of an impact would be catastrophic to the drinking water supply.
No, I know that the Asian clam that are in the lake right now, they don't quite have the same kind of characteristics as the quagga and the zebra mussel. So when we're seeing the shells washing up on the beaches, it's not that same level of alarm, but at the same time, it is something that you guys are working on. It
definitely is, and you're right, they're not the same. They do not breed as fast. They do not attach. They're clams rather than mussels. I mean, we're probably all familiar with the common mussels that you see on the black ones that you see at the coast. They attach to everything. And the quagga and zebra mussel are the same way. They attach to intakes for water systems, and they can attach to the rocks and then wash up on the beaches. They attach to the inside of boat engines and can cause problems with cooling, and it impacts that way. Asian clam, they don't attach to things. They exist in the substrate. So they're less likely to wash up, and they're less likely to cause problems with boat engines and those kind of things. But there are still impacts from them.
All right, and so there's no recipes out there right now for cooking these guys up, right? Are there?
Well, you mean talking about
the clams?
The clams. Well, I've actually personally on a dare tasted an Asian clam. They're small, don't taste very good, but there actually are recipes out there. The Asian clam originally came from Asia, as one would expect, given the name, and there are a number of recipes from cultures that where they do have Asian clam, where they are native and they've existed for thousands of years, and so they have recipes, but they are small. I mean, they don't make great linguine.
Yeah, well, I know because I've tried to eat the crawdads up there and had a crawdad boil with my friend from New Orleans, but there's not very much meat in those crawdads up there.
It's not the same as if you're getting them from the south.
But speaking of eating of invasive species, as I said, I'm a big fisherman up at Lake Tahoe, and I'm curious, what's going on with the invasive warm water fish?
This is the first year we're really going to be trying to tackle the invasive warm water fish. When we say invasive warm water fish, we're talking about the bass, the bluegill, the crappie, those kind of fish. There are other non-native fish, cold water fish in the lake, and those are not considered invasive by our program. So But as far as the bass and the bluegill, et cetera, the source population for that is in the Tahoe Keys, and we're working with the California Department of Fish and Game. They're going to be going in electrofishing, removing some of these this year, trying to reduce those populations, because the potential with these is that we've already seen some decline of the native fishery from these bass in particular. A lot of the minnows that, well, I don't have to tell you as a former sports fisherman, that in the Tahoe Keys you used to be able to simply trap minnows to go out and fish for Mackinac. There aren't any minnows left in the Tahoe Keys anymore, and if this continues, and you see those native minnow populations go down, then you see the cold water sport fishery could be impacted, and we certainly do not want to see that.
Okay. Well, so we've got this. It sounds like you guys are really working hard to take care of the invasive species problems that are threatening Lake Tahoe right now. And I know that you guys have taken really quick action as soon as they were discovered in Lake Mead and the New Zealand mussel on the other side. But what is the main thing that you wanted boaters to remember this year when they're coming up to Tahoe before they get an inspection?
Well, the main thing we want boaters to remember is to please show up clean, drain, and dry. It really does make the process a lot simpler, and it is more protective. The other thing we wanted to tell people is really know before you go is the mantra. And we have a AIS hotline that's available in addition to our website, the website being TahoeBoatInspections.com. But there's also a hotline that is staffed by the Tahoe Resource Conservation District, and that number is 1-888-824-6267. And once again, that's 1-888-824-6267. And if you have any questions about what to expect, will a ramp be open, will an off-ramp inspection station be open, you can go to that website, you can call that hotline, and you can know before you go, and which is really important.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ted. I appreciate your time, and thank you to Michael Smith and Nevada Trails. We'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.